And here we are, still in the province of Ragusa, this time near to the little town of Vittoria. I want to track down one of Italy's finest wines, grown here under a blistering sun. Vittoria is regarded as the centre of the wine trade in Ragusa, especially famous for an award-winning red wine called Giusto di Vittoria, which is made here at COS Winery. Giusto Occhipinti and his two school friends founded COS Winery in the early 80s, and they have enjoyed a remarkable success ever since, cultivating their vines using what he describes as a biodynamic method. As he shows me the Nero d'Avola grapes, he tells me that avoiding chemicals to fight pests and diseases means growing fewer vines on each hectare and accepting a smaller quantity of grapes at harvest time. But judging by the sharp taste of this bunch, there's a good few weeks to wait before that moment arrives. In the early days of COS Winery, the old school friends experimented with maturing their wine in the sort of clay pots or amphora that their ancestors might have used. At this stage, the 21st century has taken over, but they still experiment using oak barrels of different ages and sizes. And it has certainly paid off. Their Giusto di Vittoria has recently been awarded what is known as the DOCG status. Giusto di Vittoria. Denominazione d'origine controllata e garantita is the strictest appellation in Italy. Giusto Occhipinti is justifiably proud of it.
Essendo una denominazione d'origine controllata che abbiamo in Sicilia.
Okay. Well, that makes it very special because this is the only wine in Sicily that has this guarantee. So, Giusto, I'm looking forward to tasting it. Small is beautiful would certainly apply at COS Winery. A handful of rooms for a few lucky tourists and a carefully nurtured harvest.
Assaggiamo.
Assaggiamo. Oh, è bellissima.
Grazie.
Sì. It's absolutely delicious wine. I can understand why this wine has its DOCG, this guarantee. And all I can say is that Giusto and his colleagues have definitely sacrificed quantity for quality. Complimenti.
Grazie.
You know, another nice way of enjoying a good Italian wine is to make a lovely braised beef dish. And that's what I'm going to do here. I have some beautiful round steak, but I also need some onions frying. A little bit of olive oil, nice high heat. There's about 4 onions. It's a very heavy onion dish. So the best way to fry onions is always to get a little bit of heat in first. So stir them in the hot oil, let them warm up, so par cook them and then put it right down to a very low heat. And then you have a lovely paper lid, which you put right down on top of the onions. And what happens is the heat builds up from underneath, the steam rises, the hot steam drops back down and starts cooking the onions from the top down, so it makes it much faster. Meantime, I want to get on with my beef, and I have here some flour, and I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on as well. It's really important to coat the beef really well with the flour, because the flour is going to thicken the stew later, and it's also going to help to brown the meat. Now, that looks about right. Into the pan it goes. And now you just need a little bit of patience. Don't be tempted to move the beef around in the pan. Just leave it to settle and brown on one side before turning it over. Let's just check our onions. Okay, my onions are a lovely, very pale golden colour with a slight caramelisation on the edge. So that's perfect. And all I need to do is pop my beef in on top, because this is a one-pot dish. That's the last of the meat. So now I'm going to deglaze the pan. Pour off any surplus oil, leaving just the brown beefy crust in the pan. And then gently pour in the red wine and stir it around a little to pick up the flavour. That's it, it's all just perfect. So in goes the red wine over the stew. And just a little bit of extra wine just to cover the meat. And it's important to let this simmer for about 10 minutes at this stage, just to burn off the alcohol so you still have that lovely rich wine flavour. That smells a lot better. After it has simmered for a while, add some fresh bay leaves with a tin of tomatoes and a little sugar. Add salt and pepper, but only a little, because we are going to adjust the seasoning later. Turning off the heat now, and I'm going to pop this in the oven for about 2 hours because I want the meat just to soften down and all the flavours to blend together. Oh, that looks so good. That's beautiful. You know, for most people, this would actually be complete by now, but not in Italy. I have a little trick that I learned from Italian friends of mine, and it's called a battuto, and it's where we're putting in some extra seasoning right at the end just to give this a little edge. And what I have are a few more unusual ingredients to add to a stew at the last minute. The first one, which would be surprising, are anchovies, but the saltiness really brings something new to this. A large red chilli, which I'm just going to roughly chop. And I'm going to leave the seeds in this time. Some garlic. Maybe just 1 clove. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon. So I just need the zest of the lemon. I know this looks like a really odd combination, but I promise it really does work. So I'm just going to roughly chop this. And in it goes. And give it a stir. It's also brought a lovely colour to the stew too. So in about 1 minute, the heat of the stew will have cooked that and it'll be ready to eat.